And so whereas Wollstonecraft has this sort of thought, this sort of vision for what women and men could be like in terms of collaboration, in terms of their own development and virtue, in terms of their harmonious engagement in the work of the home with raising of children, there's this break that happens in the Industrial Revolution. So we have agrarian time where Wollstonecraft's vision actually is quite appropriate. The work of the home conducted by men and women together. Yes, there are sort of gendered roles for sure, based on male strength and women nursing and bearing children. But there's a collaboration that's necessary just because of subsistence living in the agrarian home. With Industrial Revolution, men are pulled out of the home, sent to work in factories, and they become very quickly, due to how industrialization and sort of the rise of capitalism works, is there becomes a deep dependency of the wage earner, this man, on the capitalist. And then there also becomes a new dependency of the woman upon her husband. Of course, legal dependency was something that, for age on, there was sort of an understanding from different sources of legal subordination in the home, but there wasn't an economic subordination. Men in the home relied upon women just as much as women relied upon men. So in some sense that, the legal subordination was almost like a fiction. I mean, if you're living in collaboration and you respect each other and you need each other for the work you do each day, that legal subordination isn't really that important. And really, there were no complaints about it for a long, long time. There were women in the 15th century, Christine de Pizan, who certainly pushed forward understandings of women's equality that comes out of the Christian tradition, Imago Dei. But there's not a revolution, as you see in the first wave of American feminism and other parts of the world, due to what happens in the Industrial Revolution. So women become far more dependent on those wage-earning men, and it puts them in all sorts of difficult situations. And so what Marian Glendon's work does is show that the response to that in sort of different nations, but especially in a place like America, is that instead of kind of requiring more duties of men and requiring sort of more collaboration somehow, or expecting that, we do this kind of libertarian turn where we say, well, in order for women to have kind of equality with men, we just sort of have to allow for easier divorce. We have to allow for something like abortion. That's, getting further on. But and so you're breaking up the family into kind of liberal individuals instead of seeing the need to bring them together through more collaboration, because economically that has broken down. She also is very clear that after the Industrial Revolution, when and this Betty Friedan gets into good insights on this. I definitely don't agree with her on a lot of things, but she has great insights about after the Industrial Revolution, a lot of men took women's work of the home because they, through technology, created fast, appliances that could do a lot of that work that women were doing. So think of, the great craft and art of sewing clothing, of the loom at home, which was high above the ground so that children could work under, women were doing that kind of work, which was very intensive and very highly skilled in the home. And that work was then suddenly taken out of the home. So then you had this way in which men had earned the wages, and women suddenly had to, needed those wages to buy the things that they once did for themselves. And so there's a great asymmetry that begins to grow. And so, of course, women are going to start to need their own kind of work or security, especially when men are then pulled to the cities where there's other temptations as well. So that's why, of course, the first women's movement, temperance was one of their chief aims, because of the worries they had about men kind of not being true to their responsibilities in the home.